This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Welcome to the G-Spot Podcast. I'm your guide, Katy Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us for conversations around sex, spirit, and all things self-care. All things self-care. All things self-care.
This is a journey into sound.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
You are a G-Spot Podcast with Katy Silcox.
So hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the G-Spot. We are here with one of my favorite yoginis on the planet. She is Dr. Katy Jain. She's also a teacher here at the Shakti School. I consider Katy Jain my own personal Vedic astrologer. She has a doctorate. She has taught world religions in Sanskrit and the yoga traditions from the California Polytechnical University, as well as many other universities. She describes herself as being dissatisfied with the ivory tower approach to teaching sacred studies. And I really can attest to the fact that she really brings all of these things down to earth and is just one of really the world's foremost experts in Jyotisha, which is Vedic astrology, particularly women and Western women at that. She's been named one of the top 75 yogis shifting the planet. And she divides her time now between India and the US. She teaches courses online. Again, she teaches here at the Shakti School, a course on Veda astrology. And we are so excited and honored to have her. Katy, welcome.
Thanks so much. I've been looking forward to being on the G-Spot.
It took a pandemic, as we say around.
It took a pandemic.
So Katy, I was telling Katy before we started the show that really I only have one question for her. And it's something sort of on the forefront of everyone's mind, those of us that are interested in astrology. And it's really just like, what is going on? Can you tell us? Can you offer us some hope?
Well, it's like weathermen, they get really excited when there's a big storm because they have something to report on, like if a hurricane's coming, they have eyewitness 24-hour account on what's happening. It's the same thing being an astrologer right now. It's a really interesting configuration in the sky. Where to begin, so you want me to just launch into what's happening and what does it all mean?
So here's how I'd frame it.
Yeah.
Imagine, most of our listeners have a background in yoga and not everyone, but in yoga and Ayurveda. And I think what could be cool is, what happened, what's happening, and what will happen. And that, of course, we never know, but what can we look forward to? In other words,
yes.
Let's talk about the transformation and let's talk about the possibility, but let's also, I know this is what Katy Jain does. It's like, there is this silver lining. There is this incredible opportunity. And so
yes.
Honestly, I don't care, Katy. You can just talk at me for an hour and blow my mind. Whatever you want.
Well, yeah, there is a double meaning for the Chinese character for crisis. It's also opportunity. There's two meanings for that character in Chinese. It can either mean crisis or opportunity. And that really is what the astrology of the moment is showing us. And there's different layers. There's the short term, and then there's the long term. So, we want to be aware of both. Like, what can we do in the short term? How can we remain positive? I mean, the one thing that people need to understand about Vedic astrology in particular, which is called Jyotisha in Sanskrit, is that its main value is really not about making dire predictions. It's not about fatalism. It's not about fortune telling. And it's definitely not about spiritual bypassing, meaning like, oh, this is all the fault of Saturn, or like, whatever people do to like deflect personal responsibility. And that's sometimes how astrology gets perceived, but really we have to understand Jyotisha, and this is really relevant for the work that you do at Shakti School. Jyotisha is the sister science to Ayurveda. That's why we're the two Katys. K2.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a sister. These are sister sciences, and how they are sister sciences is based on the Vedic understanding of the mind-body connection, that the mind and the body are not distinct. And in our Western world, our Western form of medicine, if you go to your regular old MD and say, do my symptoms have to do with the grief I'm feeling, or, the way that I'm looking at the world, they would say you're nuts. Right? Because since I want to talk about since the Enlightenment period, because we're at the end of the Enlightenment. That's another thing I'm going to discuss in terms of the timing of things. But in the Enlightenment period, we had this split between mind and body. I think, therefore I am. Descartes, that division between the two entities. But in the Vedic philosophy, mind and body are one, and the mind informs the body. How you think is going to create your world. How you perceive yourself is going to result in the manifestation of that habitual thought. This is now becoming well known with the experiments on placebo. Even the regular old MD, even our regular old doctors are now having to admit that the mind does have a role to play in the healing of the body. Prayer does work. Positive thinking does work. So Jyotisha is best used as a way to put our mind, to put our thoughts on the enlightened perspective. Jyotisha means, consists of two words, Isha and Jyoti. It means the desire to see with enlightened perspective. Jyoti means to be enlightened. So, to focus on doom and gloom and the difficulty of the transits and, what they portend for the world is not helpful.
I was just going to say, it seems the antithesis then of this desire to walk and see in light.
Yes.
It's actually the antithesis of that.
Yes, the antithesis of that. That's how, but these systems have been degraded, Ayurveda has been degraded. Jyotish has been degraded. People don't understand them as a holistic system. And Jyotisha is an integral part of Ayurveda for many reasons. But the first thing is it's the thought that manifests later on as the body. So you want to have your thoughts aligned with the highest possible outcome so that your physical reality matches, but it's not just based on, like the intention experiment where it's just, like, for example, I could intend every day to be a supermodel. It's never going to happen. I'm 5'2", I'm old, it's just no way. But I could intend it. It's just not going to happen. But what Jyotisha means is to base our intentions on what's available in the moment.
Mm.
The word in Sanskrit is called sankalpa. It means to align your thoughts with the natural array, the present moment.
Mm.
That's being in Dharma.
Yes.
And the Vedic chart helps us to see what's available in the moment.
Mm.
So to base our thoughts on in the most uplifting way that we possibly can.
It's the opposite of spiritual bypassing.
It's the opposite of spiritual bypassing. It's taking total responsibility for your co-participatory role in the manifestation of the divine plan. Like, God wants us to participate as conscious human beings in the unfoldment of an enlightened plan. We just don't know what that plan is. And that's why I believe the zodiac was invented, to help us understand what the divine plan is, or the Sanskrit word for that would be dharma, on a global level and also on an individual level. So that's the way we have to understand the current transits. Because if you go to your regular old clunky Jyotishi on the street here, like, the fatalists will tell you that this is a really, really tough transit. And it is, as we're seeing.
Right.
What we're encountering is something called the snake of time. And snake of time is a particular configuration in Vedic astrology. I'm not going to talk to you guys too much about the techno speak, because you'll get lost if I go into it. So I'll try to simplify it as much as possible. But basically, the snake of time means that all the planets are in between the two nodes of the moon. And the two nodes of the moon are symbolized as a serpent. The north node of the moon, which is Rahu, is the head of the serpent. And Ketu, the south node of the moon, is the tail of the serpent. So, the way that I describe the nodes that people can understand is through the analogy of a greyhound race. So in a greyhound race, it's not natural for dogs to, chase around to try to win a victory, to try to reach the goal or whatever, finish line. That's not natural for them. So they need an incentive to get into the race. So the trainer puts a fake rabbit on a stick, except that the hounds don't know that that rabbit isn't real, so they chase after it. And in the process of chasing after it, all kinds of things happen. They fall down. One gets an advantage. One falls behind. One's definitely going to win. One's definitely going to lose. And they're all going to come in according to their rank. But the point is they never ask the question when they return to their pen, hey, what happened to the rabbit?
Right.
Right. So that's the way these nodes work. Rahu, the north node of the moon, are the things that we chase after thinking we're going to get something. So what do people think that they're going to get that they've lost in this whole game of snake of time? Which I'll talk about more specifically. Retirement, the job they loved, the vacation they thought was going to make them happy, like all of the things that we've been chasing after in our world, consumption, that the Creator has inserted in front of us as the fake rabbit on the stick to get us to participate in our karma. Like if you knew that, by joining that job, it was going to end in hell, or you were going to get married only for it to end in divorce, you would never do it. Right. So that's the fake rabbit, the lure, the thinking that we're going to get something. The south node of the moon is the wise greyhound, the one that realizes that rabbit is not real and refuses to participate in the race. Okay. So, so these are the nodes of the moon. And whenever all the planets are in between the two nodes, which you could call them craving and aversion, gain and loss, what happens is similar to a game that's really popular here in India that's based on the snake of time. It's called Snakes and Ladders. In America, I think we call it Chutes and Ladders. But if you've ever played that game, you know, it's really frustrating if you've gotten to the end. Like basically, you know, you climb up a ladder and you're supposed to get to the highest point on the board, except that there are these snakes. So the snake can either bring you all the way back down to the bottom, or it can bring you all the way to the top, depending on the roll of the dice. So if you roll a dice and, you know, like I've played this game many times here in India, and it always happens to me that I'm just about ready to win. I roll the dice, I hit one of these snakes, and I go all the way back to the beginning of the board again. This is an ancient game here, but it's based on this astrological phenomenon that we're experiencing. You know, we've just been, it's like a great cosmic game of snakes and ladders in which we hit the snake and went all the way to the bottom.
Katie, let me just clarify one thing about the race of the dogs. The wizened dog that doesn't participate coexist beside the one that participates, right?
That's right.
So it's not like, you know, I'm thinking of Arjuna and Krishna being like, I'm done. Like you can't not race.
Right. No, you can't not race.
Okay.
But you can't not race. Like this is true. But you also have to have the wisdom. You also have to have the wisdom that none of that is real. The rabbit isn't real. Rahu is the planet of illusion. Thinking we're going to get something, thinking we're going to get somewhere. And Ketu is the reality that, you know what, that death is real. Endings are real. Ketu cuts us off. The head, it's the headless serpent. It's the serpent without its head.
And our underlying divine consciousness is real.
Right. And our underlying divine consciousness is real. That's the meaning of the head being cut off. Like it's beyond your intellect. The Ketu is a symbol of the higher self. You know, that is not touched by any of this. So that's what we've experienced. We've experienced Snake of Time. And this is going to last a little bit of time. We're waiting for Venus to slip out of the snake time. And that's not good. It's not until June sometime. I don't have the exact date, but it's not until June. And then, you know, we have some difficult eclipses. Like that's, you know, what we're experiencing. And a transit of the planet Saturn, which, you know, makes everything move incredibly slow. So, you know, the tough news about this for all of us is that this is going to take some time, and we should take that seriously, that this is time that we're dealing with. Like the way that the snake of time is being affected is according to the star constellations that these two nodes are currently transiting. Rahu is transiting a node, a constellation Ardra, which is the domain of Rudra Shiva, the howler, you know, the storm, the master of the storm. And on the other hand, Ketu's transiting a constellation which is the domain of Kali.
Oh my God, no wonder.
Yeah, no wonder. I mean, but these two stars are considered the stars of evolution. They're the evolutionary stars, and yet they're horrific. I mean, evolution is one of those words that looks so good on paper.
Yeah.
Like, I want evolution. I want transformation. And then throw freedom in there too. That's awesome. Liberation. But what we don't realize is that, evolution happens because of the ice age coming and all the herd moving south, and we have to adapt. We're stuck out on the tundra. We got to figure out how to survive the winter. I mean, this is evolution. We're being forced to adapt. And it came all of a sudden, which is the way that this works. But it's going to take some time. So, realistically, we're going to be dealing probably with COVID until June or May of next year. That's not to say things aren't going to get better.
Right.
That's not to say that things aren't going to evolve. So we want to understand how things are going to evolve and what opportunities this presents. And this is really good news for our Shakti School sisters. This is really good for people in the field of holistic medicine. So that's the first thing I want to talk about is the planet Jupiter. So the planet Jupiter has shifted position, which is really good because for the last few months, Jupiter has been in a place that should have been good. But because it was connected, Jupiter was connected with the south node of the moon, its good qualities went haywire. So what are the good qualities of Jupiter? And I think you, Katy, have an exalted Jupiter in your chart, right? So that's why you're the way you are. You're a global person. Jupiter is globalism. Jupiter is somebody who feels the whole world is her family. It's all of the things that we love. International travel that's cheap. Expansion of opportunities everywhere. The increase in the stock market. Jupiter also relates to banking and money. But connected with this node of the moon, which is the realm of Kali, she's like, no, we got to shift this. So, you
can't just fly around and make money. We need to do something with all this big global energy.
Yeah, we have to do something with the big global energy and how to channel it. But the other thing that Jupiter relates to is belief.
I didn't know
what we believe in on the higher level. And this is my prediction. Now I always tell people I don't have my ear pressed against the wall of God's office. So take my predictions with a grain of salt, but this is my prediction. We're all gonna lose faith if we haven't lost faith already in what we believe in as a culture.
Absolutely.
So what do we believe in as a culture? One of the things we believe in, who are the high priests of our freaking culture? The men in white. I mean, I should say women too, but it's snarky old men in white, these doctors, who are, it said God laughs only 2 times. When we say, I have a plan, and when doctors tell us how long we have to live. and this is where we put our belief. Everything, especially now, look at us. It's like everything is based on what the doctors say, the doctors. Discounting entirely certain other forms of healing that have been completely marginalized by our Western medical system that we believe in so much. Right? Like Ayurveda, like Chinese medicine, like energy. I mean, remote healing is going to be huge. If you're a remote healer, you should be in big demand coming up really soon here. Because the other thing, Jupiter is our hope and our faith. And it's entered a position of debilitation. And I also predict a huge mental health crisis coming. if it isn't here already. I mean, especially in the United States, I mean, Americans are so isolated to begin with, Americans and Europeans. We're already depressed because we don't hang out and meet people, and we don't have community, and we live in our isolated little worlds, rat race worlds. But then impose social distancing, impose quarantine and isolation. I mean, what is this going to do to the mental health of our people? If you're in the field of healing, holistic healing, all different kinds of alternative healings are going to become extremely popular because people are going to lose faith in the doctors, or the doctors are just going to be too overwhelmed trying to contain pandemics. We may see more pandemics, who knows? This may be the new normal. We don't know. But it does present a tremendous opportunity for people who are in alternative health professions.
And, Katy, if I can just interject, just for clarification, we are, because of this debilitation in Jupiter, and we're questioning the beliefs, we are questioning these structures that we've put so much belief in as an authority. Now we're having to, I've been saying, we are having to now access our inner authority in a new way because of this co-opting to the outer authority. But the problem isn't the doctors themselves, many of which are wonderful, great people.
Yes, it's totally.
So that can be very clear to the listeners. It's this entire structure of hubris that believes that we are connected from our emotions and the natural world, et cetera, and our spirit.
Fully.
Because there are many doctors and nurses in Shakti school who are like, we're a doctor.
Yeah. I should clarify. I should clarify that I'm absolutely not discounting the medical profession. I mean, it is like, our saving grace right now, the people that are saving everybody's lives. But even doctors are going to question their profession, is what I mean.
There's probably no one on the planet questioning the medical profession more than the doctors right now.
I fully agree. And who wants to be a doctor in this world? It's like they're not allowed to go home. They're not allowed to have a break now. They're working around the clock, just being, punished by this incredible demand on them. So, who wants that? I mean, the kind of stress that this is creating. And, in a way, this has to do astrologically with the planet Ketu, which is cutting us off from a system that is unhealthy.
Absolutely.
And doctors themselves are going to expand their worlds as a result, their profession. I believe that very much, and start including things that, take the tax off of them. They can't afford to have so many sick people. They need people to be healthy. Right. We need one of the theories about China, and the containment of the cases is because of Chinese medicine. In Chinese medicine, you pay the doctor if you get sick.
I love that.
Right? I know. And this is something.
Wait, no. Isn't it the opposite? You pay the doctor when he gets you well?
That's what we have, right? We pay our doctor to get us well, but in China, if you get sick, then you pay the doctor. Meaning that the purpose of the doctor is to make sure that you don't get sick. So Chinese medicine is like, it's based on Ayurveda. It's based on preventative measures, making your immunity stronger, making your body more resistant to disease. And this is something that, the regular medical field they're going to have to take it seriously, because they can't deal with this impact of sick people. They just can't. They were already taxed enough before this happened.
Right. That's one of the theories that I've been reading about, and I certainly believe in, that we are experiencing such a bad, not that it can't affect fully healthy people, but when you're already dealing with a chronically overweight, inflamed, chronic disease society / drugs, smoking, all of those types of things, we don't stand a fighting chance. Whereas, young, and when I say young, it has nothing to do with age. Like that vitality of prana in all ages of people is the thing that's going to fight this off.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And, here I want to talk a little bit about Pluto.
Great, let's do it.
I don't really ever think about Pluto. Pluto seems really, really far away. But we've just experienced a transit of Pluto, or it's coming. I think it happened in March, the transit of Pluto, right when this whole thing hit. But more interesting, like the transit of Pluto takes every 13 years. So we're seeing the end of the period between 2007 to now, 13-year cycle. So whatever you started in 2013 is coming to an end and a new project begins. That's one way you could look at it. But there's something else, and I have to credit one of my Vedic astrology teachers for making me aware of this, Ernst Wilhelm, who's a real master of what's called Muhurta in Jyotisha. Muhurta has to do with the art of right timing, like studying the transits of the planets over many years to determine when the right timing is for certain things. And he mentions in one of his recent talks about the current transits, a very rare transit that has just taken place of the south node of Pluto. This baby doesn't move for centuries. The last time it made a move in the zodiac was in the year 1777.
Wow.
Right. So we're ending what began in 1777. So, and beginning a new cycle of this really potent, rare and obscure south node of Pluto. And Ernst, in his analysis, mentions the Russian plague that took place in 1777, wiped out a lot of people. But he does it. But see, this is where Jyotisha can be doom and gloom, because you can look at the Russian plague in 1777 and go, holy crap, oh God. Or you can look at what also was happening in the world, which was the Enlightenment.
Wow.
The Enlightenment in Europe, the American Revolution, the dawn of medicine, like our modern medicine began in that particular time period where advances in science were being made, the dawn of reason and rationality, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, humanism, the human as being central.
Just so many of the things that our whole society is based on.
Our whole society is based on all of this stuff that began in 1777, and we take it for granted because it's our way of life. But we're also at the end of what began with the Enlightenment and its aftermath, which is obesity. I mean, if we think about it, also 1777 was the Industrial Revolution. Mm-hmm. It's the way we work. It's the way we produce. It's the way we eat. Mm-hmm. It's and over centuries, look at what we've got. We've got obesity, we've got diabetes, our air is absolutely polluted. I mean, our oceans are polluted, our produce, our food is full of, GMOs, and our milk is full of antibiotics. I mean, it goes on and on. Science gone haywire. 1777 was the dawn of science. Sir Isaac Newton.
Our friend Prashanti Jager calls it.
Oh, I love Prashanti.
He says it's the masculine cleverness versus the wisdom.
Yes, and that's what we saw in this last period of the south node of Pluto. This is, and we're at the end of it, and our immune systems as a result are totally compromised by all of the advances in antibiotics and prevention of disease and all this kind of stuff, which is a good thing, but it's also like run us amok. It's like science gone mad.
Right. There hasn't been a balance.
There has not been a balance. So now we have to think about the next century ahead, which we're right at the dawn of. It's like you have to think of us as like we're the founding mothers. They were the founding fathers of a new world. I believe this is a female-led century. This is the dawn of matriarchy. This is the dawn of rediscovering the old things that worked in the past that present us with future solutions. Even the medicine that they're talking about that can help with this disease, the malaria drug, whatever it's called, quinine, whatever, forgive me for not knowing it, but that's an old drug. It's like finding something old that can be applied to the future. This is the nature of the new century. And it's also a time of huge innovation, while the effects of the last, transit of the south node of the moon beginning in 1777 have created, it's kind of the end of modern science and the dawn of a new advance in science, which, we don't even know what that's going to be and how that's going to influence and affect our world, but we can get hints of it. And it's going to be much more on the level of the mind. Mind technologies are going to start coming to the fore, which again is old, becomes new again. We can look at the Yoga Sutras, the third chapter of the Yoga Sutras, as a preview of coming attractions. Now we're talking over Zoom.
Right. It's a form of Siddhi.
Yeah, it is. 100 years from now, maybe not even, maybe 30 years from now, we will be talking mind to mind. We won't need the machine.
Wow, I hope I'm alive for that.
Yeah. Or else we'll reincarnate and see it that way. Because this is a cycling universe.
With a young body. With a young body.
With a young body. But yeah, it's like our kids are going to say, just like we said, like we tell our kids about, the days when we had phone booths and typewriters and dial-up telephone, rotary telephones. They can't relate. Yeah. Their kids are not going to be able to relate to all these gadgets. They're going to say, oh, you needed the cell phone to be able to communicate in your world. That's like your horse and buggy. Now we can just think a thought, tune into somebody, connect with somebody. So what that means for the present moment, and we're already seeing it, is people are moving away from so much reliance on the material, on the physical. I mean, one of the things that happened for me, and it may have happened for other people as well, after this whole crash, suddenly your values take a different,
Absolutely.
like suddenly money doesn't seem to be so important.
I've been keeping a running list of the things that I've noticed, and I spoke on this in a different podcast or in Shakti school. Like, there are essentially two, and you can maybe speak to the astrology of my intuition around it, if it exists. But there are essentially two main currents that I'm feeling, and one is that current of panic and fear, and it's normal, right? Like it's a normal response to a threat.
Yeah.
But we can't give into that. There's this other current that's happening that I'm having trouble putting words to, but everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about, whereby I had a family reunion on Zoom with my family in Colorado and California. Wednesday at 9 a.m., I'm hearing the sound of a 30-something-year-old man playing with his 5-year-old daughter in the backyard on a Monday morning. I'm seeing another dad across the street doing chalk drawings with his daughter. This whole like, it's just been such a teacher of seeing the masculine interplay with this young feminine, right? In this value system being completely shifted. And I personally, and I totally agree with the mental health stuff, but I also feel, and I've heard this from so many people, I feel less anxious and depressed these days because I feel so connected to my world locally in a new way. So there's two currents, and like the other one is like this deep sense of like, we're all in this together.
I know, and that's a wonderful thing. Like, but in a whole other way, like we've all been in this together, leading up to this, with the invention of the internet and all the ways that we can connect. But this is on a whole other level. This is on a feeling level. This is on a deeper level of profound interconnection. What's really interesting about this snake of time thing is some people this is really, really bad for.
Right.
This is really tough for, people who are heavily invested in the stock market, people who are losing their jobs, people who are having to go to work, like our healthcare people, our doctors, our poor nurses, our distributors, grocery stores. I mean, these people are working around the clock. And there are heroes. Yeah, there are heroes. And then there's a whole other sector for whom this is actually a hugely blissful moment. I'm thinking about, like the little kids that live in our house here in Delhi, where I'm currently sequestered in India. There are domestic help, they're her kids, and their dad is almost never, ever, ever home. He works in a factory like 80 hours a week, and they never, ever see him. But now because school is closed and because the factory is closed, they're with their dad all the time, like you just mentioned. And that is so wonderful. I've seen a transformation in these kids. Totally. They're so happy. It's so healing. I've been coming to Delhi for so many years of my life, over 30 years of my life. I have never, ever seen a clear blue sky here, ever. The sky is clear. I even saw butterflies. I'm hearing birds singing. I've never seen India so clear. You can breathe. The earth is breathing. So all the innocent, Ketu has to do with innocence. All the innocent beings on the planet, poor people, I mean, people who are, like children, animals, plants, like all innocent beings are actually going to experience a great benefit from all of this. That's the one half of it. And, you know, if you're chasing after the rabbit, you're going to feel the pain of the non-reality of it. Unfortunately, you know, for people who've spent their whole life like my sister, saving for retirement, she's in bad shape right now because it's affecting her vision of what freedom was supposed to be.
Yeah, freedom and security.
Freedom and security, which, you know, you're a Cancer and so she, it's like everything to her. Her freedom and her security is everything. And, you know, to have it just pulled out from under her is like completely devastating. But at the same time, we have to question, was it real to begin with? Or was it the lure to get you to work for the company store your whole life because, you know, save for retirement so you can be free one day? Ketu's teaching us, no, you got to be free right now. Because there's nothing that is permanent in this world. There's nothing that's going to last. Nothing, not even COVID-19 is going to last.
I mean, that just brought tears to my eyes. Like, and this is something you and I have discussed often in our private sessions, Katy. It's like, you know, without going into my personal chart very much, but I have a lot of that energy of what has been called the death and destruction. And yet it is that same death and destructive energy that brings about this new life and this new birth. It's like the snake shedding her skin. And I'm feeling so many of us, there's this sense of being so real and so raw right now. Everything is stripped away. Like friendships have shifted for me because these are people that maybe a month ago didn't even have time for real conversations, and suddenly they do. And you know, there's awesome beauty. There's such a great beauty during this time as well.
It's so true. And just even being like, you know, here in India, we're in a really unique situation in the sense that we're under total lockdown. And what that means is...
tell our listeners what it looks like for you, because, and let me just interject this. Before our call, Katy Jane was saying, most Americans are like taking their dogs on walks and like going on hikes and like, so we don't complain anymore, America and Europe.
Yeah, please don't complain.
You
could be in India.
What's it like there?
Well, I have to say a lot of things about India, because India, for me, I've been coming here, like I said, since I was a teenager, and I keep coming here, and I live here now, and I'm married here now, and it's my home, because it's such a powerful teacher. It has so much to teach us. But to describe a little bit about what we're dealing with here is India, we're under complete lockdown. So what that means is we cannot leave the house, though I do sneak out at 6 a.m. and do my morning walk and run and everything, because I have to. Because don't tell anybody, because the cops don't come to work, I found, until 9 a.m. So but we have they show up, not all of them come, some come around 10 in the morning, so there is a little bit of a breathing room here, but basically we are confined to our homes. The interstate is closed, states' borders are closed. We are not allowed out of the house for fear of arrest. You can be arrested. The cops have the right to hit you with a stick if you're found outside, or even, you know, I've heard this, it may be a rumor, but they also can have orders to shoot to kill if necessary. So we're really confined at home, which is fine for people like us who have a nice big house. You know, we have enough room to spread out. But the average Indian lives many people in tiny quarters. It is a huge difficulty for the majority of Indian people. You know, it's not uncommon for 8 to 10 people to live in a room, you know, one room apartment or one room space, the size of a king size bed, essentially.
Wow.
And to be locked indoors like this for weeks on end, and they're probably going to extend it, I don't know, is really intense. But yet, what I'm seeing is yoga in action. Because when you are locked inside your house and you can't go anywhere, and trust me, I freaked out a lot. When this was announced, I was like, oh my God, how can they do this? Because, we really live in the mountains. We live in the Himalayas. We just came down to Delhi for our wedding reception and got trapped down here. So I was just like, no, this can't be. But what I'm seeing is incredible self-restraint and discipline. And people are not complaining, except for my husband, about the government. They're cooperating with their government. They are quiet, they're silent, the discipline and self-restraint of the Indian people during a time or a situation that if Americans were in, we would lose our minds. We would freak out. We would have loss of liberty, loss of rights. But this is why this is the country of Gandhi. This is why this is the country of Mother Teresa, and so many saints, because people have learned how to be with themselves. How to be with themselves, with other people.
That's really the secret of life.
It's a secret of life. Yeah. So it's taught me a lot about how to just be, there's so many rumors circling around. Nobody's telling us anything, but, one of the worst rumors that I heard recently was that this lockdown could continue until September. No. And I know. And
there's our brain, I read this article on psychological chunking. Like our brain can only handle chunks at a time.
I know.
Yeah, let's just
But it was a report. It was this irritating report that was issued by some think tank in Boston or whatever on the Indian lockdown. And I freaked out. I called my mom, and my mom's like, "Oh, Katy, that's fake news." And but I heard it just as I was sitting to do my evening meditation practice, and I just sat with it, and I was like, "Okay, Katy, if you are confined to this space until September, can you be okay with that? Can you be with your mind? Can you be with your breath? Can you be cool with just being here in this moment right now?" And, it's one thing when you sign up for a Vipassana retreat, when you pay your money and you go, it's another thing when it's imposed upon you, but you have no other choice. And when I started to allow that self-acceptance, like, I can handle it. It's going to start getting to be 115 degrees down here. This is tapasya. This is, being able to accept the present moment as inevitable. And I think that just that alone can give us such huge growth spiritually, mentally, emotionally, when we can, really be in the moment as it is, not as I want it to be, but as it is totally. And in India right now, we have no other choice. We have in America, like I hear people going to Home Depot. My mom went to Home Depot, like everybody's out, like, lucky. I'm so jealous. But here, when you have no choice.
Right, but on the cosmic karmic scale, as per usual, you guys are doing the deep work, and us baby Americans can only handle so much spiritually, and I think we are definitely being tested in our own way, of course. But Katy, do you have any, as we wrap up, I'm just wondering if there's anything that you could share with our listeners. Is there one thing that's simple that they can do to really not only endure but thrive during this time? Is there any sweet little ritual that may come to your mind, heart, that we could offer as a closing?
Sweet little ritual to offer as we're closing.
Is there any way to appease these planets in a
Yes,
a little formalized fashion? Like, I think about Dr. Svoboda being like, you might want to like put this on your altar for Saturn, and like, is there? And I'm not a fan of outer rituals, only in the sense that they remind us of the inner ritual.
Yeah, outer rituals, the best thing, like, I would say that we can do is to safeguard our mind. The outer is not so important anymore. This is something that we have to understand, is that our world is no longer about the outer. It's no longer about the material. It's about the inner. And the best thing that we can do is to safeguard our mind. When the definition of depression in I think it's Hindi, maybe not Sanskrit, is when the mind is chanchal. Chanchal means when the mind is constantly moving from one thing to another, which is what we're doing on our phone. Right? What's the latest number? What's the latest tally? Like, I Google like 24 hours a day practically, like, what's the latest on the lockdown? When are they going to let us free? Like, it's just back and forth and back and forth.
So you do it. The enlightened Katy Jane does it too. So we can all feel.
Of course I do. It's like I'm under lockdown. I want to get back to my dogs and my daily walk and my peaches and everything where my home is, but in any case, the best thing that we can do is if you have a mantra that you practice, and if you don't, just practice the chanting of the mantra Om. Mantra Om is so simple, it's so easy. I don't know if I can give them a practice like that, but absolutely. I could make it available to your people. I have a recording, whatever. But yeah, I'm happy to. If you don't have a mantra practice, now is the time to have one, because what mantra does is to safeguard the mind, to bring the mind to one point, not moving chanchal from point A to point B to point C all the time, like constantly updating the news and the latest and the, what's happening, but to bring your mind to a state of calm is the absolute best thing that you can do. I mean, it's what's helping me. That's why I'm saying, it's the only thing that's helping me is to sit and to bring my mind to that single, beautiful, meaningless thought, the mantra. And if even the breath, just even watching your breath, sitting and watching your breath, is also a powerful practice. And, these small little disciplines, this relates to the energy of Saturn, small little disciplines like this add up to big gains. That's how Saturn works. Small baby steps. You don't have to solve the problem. You're not in charge of having to figure out how to end this pandemic and get life back to normal. The only thing that you have to do is stay present. Stay present. And mantra is the best thing for that. So yeah, I'm happy to make my Om instruction available if people don't know how to chant Om in the most expedient way. But that I would recommend.
Katie, thank you. I think that this is like going to really serve so many people. And I also think it's a beautiful perspective for us about you guys out in India. And I just want to say on behalf of myself and all of the listeners and the Shakti School itself that we are holding you guys in our hearts. And I think it's just nice to bring consciousness around where you guys are and to really feel that link with you has been a gift for me this morning.
Me too. So I hope what I said really helps people. And yeah, thanks for having me on, and just thanks for the prayers for India.
And we'll definitely include those of you who are listening, links in our show notes to Dr. Katy Jane and her website and her offerings. And as I said before, she's one of our most loved and respected staff members at the Shakti School. And I'm sure this is the beginning of an ongoing conversation. Thank you.
Oh, I hope so. All right. Love to you all.
Much love.
Stay safe. Be happy. Bye.
Kote phul apon sukhe kote phul